right, let's go push out some notifications real quick. Let's go post these. Need to build the CLI tool for this. This is not the first time I've said that, I'm sure. All right. Today's going to be a little bit of reading articles and writing code. Maybe at the end, we'll see where we end up after these first 3 articles. We may do 4, or we may drop into some working on some Go and HTMX. We'll see. So we'll see how things go. But yeah, let's get started. I want to start with this first article here. Why don't more people use Linux? This is a DHH article, so I figured it should be interesting. So, all right. Marker. We want a stream marker. So, marker. Start. Okay. And let's do that. Alrighty. Why don't more people use Linux? A couple of weeks ago, I saw a tweet asking, if Linux is so good, why aren't more people using it? So, before we get too far in, I guess. So my understanding, this is what I think, this is what I've seen. Most people don't use Linux because there's a couple reasons. One, if you're in enterprise, you're managing many machines, and you need to enforce policies across all those machines. There's nothing quite like Windows, unfortunately. Like I'm a big Linux guy. I love using Linux. I use Windows 2 for streaming and for work, so I'm in both worlds. So that's one reason why nobody uses Linux in the enterprise. Nobody. For non-servers. For servers, it's used everywhere. The other one, for desktops at home, most people don't know what it is. It's a marketing issue. Nobody knows what it is. And it has a tendency to be pretty complex in certain scenarios. It's just not. It wasn't built for normies to use. It's just not. I have given my mom Linux on a netbook because Windows wouldn't run on it anymore, and it actually ended up okay. Like it actually worked pretty well for her. And I think there are a class of people it can work well for, but Chrome OS would be a better answer in that scenario. And then there's the developers, and a lot of them just want to get their job done. They don't want to mess with the system, and that's why they go with Mac OS. So it's Unix based, but it's all the decisions are already made. So that's my guess. So let's see what DHH has to say about it. Let's see where he goes with it. And it's a fair question. It intuitively rings true until you give it a moment's consideration. Linux is even free, so what's stopping mass adoption? If it's actually better, my response. If exercising is so healthy, why don't more people do it? If reading is so educational, why don't more people do it? If junk food is so bad for you, why do so many people eat it? Yeah, there's this too. It's like, if open source is so great, why don't more people do it? It's the same thing. It's because it's easy. So, the word is full of free invitations to self-improvement. The world is full of free invitations to self-improvement that are ignored by most people most of the time. Putting it crudely, it's easier to be fat and ignorant in a world of cheap, empty calories than it is to be fit and informed. It's hard to resist the temptation of minimal effort. Yeah, and if somebody goes to the store and buys a laptop and they want just a cheap laptop, they're either going to buy a Chromebook or they're going to buy a Windows computer. And because they have Windows at work, they'll probably want to use the thing they're most familiar with and buy one for home. It's ultimately why. If they want a laptop, they don't even know what Linux is. It's an extra step to install it. So, you know, like nobody's going to take that path. So, and Linux isn't minimal effort. It's not minimal effort at all. Things break, things go wrong. It's always an interesting environment to work in. It's probably the best for developers, but it's not the easiest. It's an operating system that demands more of you than does the commercial offerings from Microsoft and Apple. Thus, it serves as a dojo for understanding computers better. That's why it's good for developers. It gets you closer to the computer. It gets you more understanding in the realm of how computers work. With a sensei who keeps demanding you figure problems out on your own in order to learn and level up. Yep. Now I totally understand why most computer users aren't interested in an intellectual workout, when all they want to do is browse the web or use an app. They're not looking to become a black belt in computing fundamentals, but programmers are different, or ought to be different. They're like firefighters. Fitness isn't the purpose of firefighting, but a prerequisite. You're a better firefighter when you have the stamina and strength to carry people out of a burning building on your shoulders you do not. Than if you do not. So most firefighters work to be fit in order to serve that mission. That's why I'd love to see more developers take another look at Linux. Let's go open that. We might go look at that in a sec. Such that they may develop better proficiency in the basic katas of the internet. Such that they aren't scared to connect to a computer to the internet without the cover of a cloud. Besides, and that's actually a big DHH thing. I know he's big on running things on prem, and I think for a lot of companies, if you're at a certain scale, that is, I don't know, say if you're at an even scale, you know your rates and how much you're going to get, how much traffic you're going to get versus how much resources you're going to use. If you're at that scale, then you really should run on-prem in a co-location, I think. Once you get to a certain level, it is the thing that makes sense, and it takes some know-how to do. Like, it's not the same as cloud. So there are some products you can use to get you close, like Proxmox or VMware or something. You can have a private cloud pretty easily that way, but that's a proficiency in and of itself. So besides, if you're able to figure out how to set up a modern build pipeline for JavaScript or even correctly configure IAM for AWS, yeah, that's way more complicated than just setting up a server. You already have all the stamina you need for the Linux journey. Think about giving it another try. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. I This is short and sweet. I think that is probably about it. Yeah, I think one of the reasons that macOS really is so popular in the development community is because it's Unix, but it's Unix with all the decisions made for you. And for a lot of people, that's probably the way to go. So yeah, yeah. If you like this article, if you like the video, please subscribe. Please leave a comment. If you hated it, let me know what I can do better next time. And yeah, have a good one. Alrighty. Okay, let me get. I did not open like a bunch of any stream stats or anything while I was here. I should probably do that. Probably want that. Do. Perfect. And I want the YouTube one too. Do. Do do do. Get over here. Do do do. Do do. Alrighty. Cool. Da, da, da. Okay, so that was a good short article. Let's oh, I was gonna look at this. What is this? So this is developer setup for Ubuntu 2404 by DHH. Turn fresh into Ubuntu installation into fully configured, beautiful, and modern web development system. This is interesting. It's on the menu. Alacrity, Zellige. Oh, so he's not using Tmux. He's using Zellige. He's using NeoVim still. That's cool. GNOME. Tiling window manager. Is he should probably use... Nope, he's using GNOME still. Yeah, I wouldn't... I would not use GNOME. I'd just move to a tiling window manager. But cool. I like that he's opened up how he does things. That's pretty neat. And it's all scripted. That's... Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should set up something like that. Set up a website for my dot files. That might be kind of neat. So cool. So there's that one. Finish that. It's another DHH article. Let's do this one. Actually, let's do LLMs first. So let's see if this one's any good. Okay. Let's go. LLMs. That's all we need. Start. LLMs are all we need. Okay. Alrighty. LLMs are evolving quickly. Their underlying architecture, not so much. Alright. So let's, sure, I'll take your cookies. Let's zoom in just a touch here. Alrighty. LLMs evolve quickly. Their underlying architecture, not so much. Okay. So I'm going to preface this with, I don't know a lot about how LLMs architecture works, like under the hood. I know how to use them in like an API setting. I've set up local LLMs. I've used ChatGPT and Anthropic and all that, and Copilot, but I have not used. I've not actually trained a model, so this seemed interesting to me. So the decoder only transformer architecture is one of the most fundamental ideas in AI research. Well, for right now. So we'll see. I think ultimately the transformer architecture will not be the one that wins out based on current trajectories. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, new language models get released every day. Gemini 1.5, Gemma, Claude 3, potentially GPT-5 someday. It's been a while. So, but one component of LLMs that has remained constant over the last few years, the decoder-only transformer architecture. Why should we care? Research on LLMs moves fast, shockingly. However, the architecture used by most modern LLMs is pretty similar to that of the original GPT model. We just make the model much larger, modify it slightly, and use a more extensive training and alignment process. For this reason, the decoder-only transformer architecture is one of the most fundamental and important ideas in AI research. So investigating and understanding it deeply is a wise idea. I agree. It's kind of the underpinning of everything right now. For right now, it seems like we've hit a bit of a plateau with transformers. I don't think that we're going to make much more strides. I think we can feed them more data, and I think we can feed them better data and get back something a little bit more useful, and maybe a little bit smarter in some sense. But I don't think the things are going to be thinking anytime soon. I don't think they're going to be reasoning about things properly anytime soon. I don't think we're going to reach AGI with the transformer architecture personally. That's just my opinion. I don't think we have the compute for inference. I don't think we have the data. I don't think there's enough data on the internet for these things to consume. So, yeah, I think we're going to need something else. The architecture has 5 components. In the input layer, decoder-only transformers receive a text prompt as input. We use a tokenizer based on algorithm like byte pair encoding to break this text into discrete tokens, words or subwords. Then we map each of these tokens to a corresponding vector stored in an embedding layer. The process forms a sequence of token vectors that are passed to the model as input. Optionally, we can augment these token vectors with additive positional embeddings. Interesting. So it uses a tokenizer, which is similar to like a programming language. It'll lex the lexer will essentially tokenize all of the different pieces of a programming language, or the words essentially. So it's they're using like a lexer for the English language, and then they map them to vectors. And I assume they use vectors because that's what GPUs understand. Like vector math, like vector space, is what GPUs are great at. That you can process many things in parallel all on a GPU that way. So if you break down this problem into vectors, that makes sense why AI likes GPUs. And then so it's interesting that there's a embedding layer. I didn't realize that there was like embeddings within the AI itself, which is what this seems to be, which is what this seems to be implying. So I find that interesting. That's where the knowledge comes from. I don't know. Let's read on. Causal self-attention is the core of the decoder-only transformer and allows the model to learn from relationships between tokens in the input. The vanilla self-attestation operation transforms each token's representation by taking a weighted combination of the other token representations, where weights are given by pairwise attention importance scores between tokens. Causal self-attention follows a similar strategy but computes attention scores for preceding tokens in the sequence. Attention is performed in parallel across several heads, multi-head attention, each of which can focus upon different parts of the input sequence. So it's correlating different tokens together essentially. This is the sort of stuff that like kind of attests to like a sort of advanced autocomplete, where it takes the text and understands what's coming next, or predicts what's coming next based on the previous tokens. And then because those things are related in the vector space, like those vectors are numbers are similar, you can take those vectors and turn them back into tokens and then generate output. That's my understanding. And so that's what the self attention is, I assume. So feed forward transformations are performed within each block of the decoder only transformer, allowing us to individually transform each token's representation. This feed forward component is a small neural network that is applied in a pointwise manner to each token vector. Given a token vector as input, we pass the vector through a linear projection that increases its size by 4x, apply a non-linear activation function, then perform another linear projection that restores the original size of the token vector. I'm going to be honest with you. Point 3 went completely over my head. If someone out there would like to explain like step 3 in the comments section, I would be extremely grateful. Given the token vector's input, we pass this vector through a linear projection. So we can take linear, which is a line in a graph, and then project that out to 4x the size. And a nonlinear, the nonlinear activation function, this might be the function approximation essentially that goes on. I'm not sure. The classification head. The decoder only transformer has one final classification head that takes token vectors from the transformer's final output layer as input and outputs a vector with the same size as the vocabulary of the model's tokenizer. Okay. So it's translating it back into the text space using like a reverse tokenizer essentially. This vector can be used to either train the LLM next via next token prediction or generate text at inference time via sampling strategies like nucleus sampling and beam search. Transformer blocks form the body of the decoder only transformer architecture. The exact layout of the decoder only transformer block may change depending upon the implementation, but two primary sublayers are always present: causal self-attention and feed-forward transformation. All right. Self-attention makes sense. Feed-forward transformation, not so much. Additionally, these sublayers are surrounded by a layer normalization module, either before or after the sublayer or both, as well as residual connection. Interesting. So let's go look at this here. So we've got the tokenizer, which makes sense. Causal self-attention, taking the dot product of a bunch of vectors, essentially. So you've got input matrices, and then you turn them into query, key, and value. That's interesting. So it's interesting. So cool is a query, R is a key, LLM isn't one of these things. That's interesting. Output res connection. So there's a looping structure here. And then it goes into it. These are neural nets, essentially. A bunch of neural nets. Token classification. And then the transformer block. Interesting. Decoder block, position embedding. Yeah, this is all, most of this is going over my head. And then that's it. All right. I'm going to say that this is probably a bunch of very good information, but I would have liked to see a little more breakdown of what these individual things are and how they work together a little bit better. This is a little short. This is a little concise for me to grok what's going on, especially this feed forward transformation section. This seems to be black magic to me. So I get the vector space and like computing vectors and correlating them together. That correlates different concepts, different words together, essentially. And then the LLM can be like, oh, if they say this, there's this whole pool of other things that's all related to. And then you can take that and use that for the computation. So that I get. And that's how vector databases work. Essentially, you can output vectors or use vector databases with LLMs to do embeddings, and then you can use those to search the vector database and then figure out things that are related to what you asked and add that to the context window and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I would have liked a little bit more from this, but I thought it was all right. So It's written by Cameron R. Wolf, PhD. So very smart dude. So yeah. Awesome. If you liked this article, if you liked the video, please subscribe and like the video. If you have some more information, like if you want to explain to me how feed forward transformation works, or anything else that I got wrong here, add a comment down below. Help me and anyone else who's watching the video out. So, all right, I think that's it. Have a good one. I keep forgetting the call out to come join the stream on Mondays. That sucks. Oh well. So so there's that. We can mark this one as finished. What should we do? Should we go with no full-time or no full-time managers? Yeah, I think I want to do this one. We'll do 2 DHH articles today. So, all right. Start marker. Okay. All right. This is written by DHH. It's we once more have no full-time managers at 37 signals. This is interesting. After experimenting with a number of management roles over the last 7 years, 37 Signals, that's the company behind Basecamp and Hey, is back to its original configuration. None. That's interesting. Most companies grow into more complex organizations with more levels of middle management between the top and the people actually doing the implementation and the work. So this is interesting. We once more have no full-time managers whose sole function is to organize or direct the work of others. Everyone doing management here does so on the side, next to their primary work as an individual contributor. Okay, that sounds like a double-edged sword. So on one hand, you've got the managers understand the work that they're doing and the work that their employees are doing. On the flip side, the managers probably aren't focusing on becoming really good managers and protecting the teams that they're they're managing. But I guess maybe in some organizations, maybe that's not necessary. I know in like my company, our managers do a lot to make sure that the rest of the organization stays informed and we don't get a bunch of flack from the rest of the company as far as like things that don't matter to us, essentially things that have been solved, things that like explaining how things are going to work in another environment, kind of coaching and mentoring us, like that all comes from a manager. So if you're not full time with that, I have doubts that you can do a good job. So I don't know. We'll keep reading, including Jason and I, and it works. Oh, so DHH is still writing code. Interesting. There's not. That's not to say that there's no managerial work at 37 Signals. We still do yearly performance reviews, have onboarding duties for new colleagues, schedule on-call coverage, and supervise junior work. But instead of gathering all those responsibilities with a few full-time managers, we've distributed the load among the senior staff. This is again a double-edged sword. I think it's probably good from the fact that like if you're like I mean I could not see myself, at least in the near future, maybe someday down the road, I could not see myself being a full-time manager. I don't think that's something that I could do. I think I would go the senior development, like senior staff engineer sort of a like path. That would be where I would head. I don't think I would hop over to the management track. So this idea that you can do both is actually kind of interesting to me, that you could both be a contributor and be a manager. But the flip side of that is, do you end up doing two people's jobs instead of just one? Does your workload scale and double, or do you end up having like half and half? And when you do half and half, can you do either side justice? Is an interesting question I guess I have. And how do you not neglect one when you do the other? So I don't know. The incentives. This incentivizes a minimalist approach to management. I do think that's an interesting idea. I think I think if a manager doesn't feel useful, I think you can get into scenarios where they make problems essentially that other people have to solve, and it'll slow you down. But that shouldn't be the role of a good manager. A good manager should be that servant leader position, to where they unlock the team going further and getting more done, rather than create more busy work to get more visibility into what the team is doing. It should be fairly obvious what the team is doing to the manager. So instead of lining up a recruiting schedule of weekly one-on-ones, we drive status updates and check-ins by automated questions. What? Automated questions. Get your A's to your Q's. Automatically ask your team questions on a regular basis. Wrap up. Draft reports. What will you be working on this week? Oh, so you just write a small little report instead of have a stand up. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. Jury's still out on that. Instead of assigning 5, 6, 7 reports to a single person, we make every lead and principal programmer responsible for one mentee. With this distribution, there's no longer a fixed 40 hours for managerial duties to expand into. And so we dodge Parkinson's law. What is this? Parkinson's law can refer to either the two observations published in 1955 in the essay The Economist. Work expands as to fill the time available for its completion. The number of workers within public administration tends to grow regardless of the amount of the work to be done. Oh, okay. So I do know this. Like, people find work to do, essentially. So makes sense. Makes sense. Because everyone we have doing a small share of the management would usually rather be back to their own work as quickly as possible. Oh, so you're essentially disincentivizing management duties. Interesting. So they essentially they want people to go back to engineering, and they don't want people doing management things. Some weeks that means the managerial overhead is literally zero, as everyone is just busy getting their work done and nobody needs anything. You can't do that in a traditional setup. It's impossible for a full-time manager to scale their inventions. Yeah, it's impossible for a full-time manager to scale their inventions down to 0 hours per week and still feel like they're doing their job. Now I'm sure that this arrangement would be difficult to maintain at a grand scale. When you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of employees, you're naturally going to yearn for more structure and hierarchy. But that's not the case at around 60 people, which is where we are. Okay, I can buy that. It's also not the case when you hire, mentor, and promote managers of one. People with both the competence and drive to set their own agenda and follow it autonomously. People who don't need weekly one on ones with a manager to stay on track. People who thrive on long stretches of uninterrupted time. So here's one question I have. If you've got senior devs doing this, and they're managers of one per se, are they compensated in the same way a managerial person would be? Or are they compensated the same way a like a regular staff engineer would be, with this extra managerial duty that they probably don't want on top of it? It it's interesting. I don't know if this'll, I just feel like this might not work long term, but maybe it will. I just think there's probably some pitfalls here that aren't being voiced here, I think, is what I'm kind of getting at. That's the kind of people we seek to hire and develop at 37 Signals, and I find that it's easier to steer the development when someone's primary manager is also their professional superior. You're likely to learn faster and frankly respect that person more. This is a good call out. This is a good thought, actually, that there's a natural respect ladder that will be built that might not happen in other companies, especially like big enterprise companies where the your manager for a development team might not even have ever written any software. So that's interesting. Um, this is the old Steve Jobs quip about they knew how to manage, but they didn't know how to do anything. That followed his experience hiring professional managers rather than letting the best individual contributors do the management. I think whoever is managing you should probably definitely have a um, have an idea about how to do the work of the people they're managing. So if you're a programming manager, you probably should have experience writing code. It's just how it is. I wouldn't go that far. I do think there are plenty of professional managers who've had solid experience doing things, but I think the general principle holds. If they're not better at doing things than the people they're managing, yeah. But even so, it's still a trade off. I found that the hardest part of the managerial burden to distribute broadly is dealing with the conflict and poor performance. There are a lot of senior staff willing to be able to help mentor and manage juniors and peers who are on solid trajectory and acting as managers of one. It's a much smaller group who welcomes dealing with reports who can't keep up or repeatedly gets lost. So here's one interesting thing I want to know. So how does DHH, so say you've got 60 people and half those people are managers of one and half those people are the mentees. So you got the mentor, manager of one, and the mentees. So 30 and 30, that means DHH, when he's steering the company, has 30 direct reports, essentially. Which sounds actually like quite a bit. I mean, I guess that's probably like the top end of what you can handle, but that sounds like a lot. I don't know. That's just, I don't know. I'm not sure if I buy it, but maybe it's working for them. Um, so for this to work, actually, I think. But even so, it's still a trade off. I found that the hardest part of managerial burden is to distribute broadly, is dealing with conflict and poor performance. There are a lot of senior staff willing to. Yeah, we did read this already. It's a much smaller group who welcomes dealing with reports who can't keep up or repeatedly gets lost. So for this to work, you have to realize the limitations of the managerless arrangement. There's got to be someone else in the organization who can direct or even take over when an employee needs a strong, repeated, redirecting feedback. What a euphemism. That's the deal. Those cases will have to bubble up to the top. See, and having 30 people bubbling up that stuff, I don't know. If you hire good people, maybe you don't have to worry about it. But is it really so bad? If cases of poor performance keep bubbling up, there's a fundamental problem somewhere in the process anyway. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I was getting at with like you need to hire the right people. And that can usually be only definitively addressed by the top. Are we not hiring the right people? Are we unclear about our expectations? Are we too different in our feedbacks? These are root cause problems that require root cause reparations. I guess I agree. I guess this is a fair point. So, when all this works, the result is astounding. Small teams of highly competent managers of one can progress at an unbelievable pace. Left to just do their job, they get it done, and are in turn rewarded for their precious job satisfaction of really making a direct personal difference. There's nothing better than shipping quickly alongside peers you respect highly. After 20 plus years of running a company like this, I can tell you that I no longer have any interest in working any other way. Spending a couple of years with more traditional structure was a wonderful experience because it cemented this fact. We're going to make this company work without full-time managers or die trying. I would like to know on average what the employees think. I would like to know like what do the individual contributors on the teams think? What do those managers of one think? I'd like to know on average, does this lead to more satisfaction or does it lead to more burnout in the more senior engineers? Are they being tapped on the shoulder all the time by juniors, and is that a problem, or do they actually get more time to code and decompress from their managerial duties? I'd really like to know how this works, not just from the top, but how it works all the way through. But I think this is a super interesting idea and a super interesting concept, and more manageable than like say a flat structure company where there's like the CEO and just a bunch of developers. I don't think that's going to work either. So, but I liked this article. If you liked this, please like the video or subscribe to the channel. If you have any comments on this, if you have an experience working at a company like this and want to leave some feedback on how that went, please do so in the comments. If you have opinions about it, comment. Yeah, we record these every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time over on Twitch. The link is in the description for that. So, alrighty, everybody have a good one. All right. End that one. Cool. Alrighty. Do I want to do one more? Make it. That would be 4. We would have gotten 4 done if we do one more. I do think this one is interesting. It sounds interesting at least. We've done a lot of short ones, so we might as well do one more. All right. Alrighty. All right. Go is my hammer, and everything is a nail. You know that old saying, always choose the right tool for the job. Shakespeare or someone like that. All right. Well, I've turned that one on its head. I'm using one tool for all possible tasks for what I believe are good reasons. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Interesting. I've heard 2 things. I've heard use the right tool for the job, and I've heard use the tool that you know best because you'll get the best result with it. So because you can make a roller coaster in Excel. So we'll see. Let's start somewhere else. I'm Marcus, a solo developer and a digital project builder. It's just me. I have no team or subcontractors, and I intend to keep it that way. I pursued a lifestyle that includes having my own business because it gives me the most flexibility of how and when I want to work. To structure my work around the rest of my life, so to speak, I want to collaborate but not manage other people. I can I can relate to that. That sounds like living the dream here. So, as a solo developer, I believe it's a good idea to choose your tools wisely. Even more so when in a team setting. Having a tech stack that's too complex can bury you in unnecessary busy work. You'll end up building infrastructure and nursing your layers of technology all day instead of, talking to customers and building what they want. Delivering value to someone, to anyone, to the world. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you should get caught up in your infrastructure unless you're, say, like the thing that your business does is like work on, I don't know, work on high performance things. Like then worrying about infrastructure and algorithms and performance all day probably does actually make you a better. But keeping things simple means that you can actually spend time on the things that differentiate your business essentially. In 2016, I started building stuff in Go. I originally didn't like it, but I started getting it, and it stuck with me. That's a little bit after I started getting into Go. I think it was like 2014, 20, yeah, like 2014, 2013 when I really started getting into Go. So it felt like early days for the platform a little bit. When was Go actually when was Go initially released? 2009 and version 1 was 2012. Yeah, so that's why it felt new because I was there shortly after V1 launched. So, in fact, I may have even seen the V1 launch. So, um in 2016 okay, and it stuck with me so much that I eventually turned my back on other programming languages. I was writing a lot of Python and JavaScript at the time, but I dropped that. I ended up making a course for Go developers, as well as sort of kind of reinventing React for backend Go. Oh, is this the guy who made Temple? Oh no, this is different. Go components. Components. Components? Oh, so it's kind of like Temple. Oh well, navbar item, href checks. Okay. Okay. This is interesting. I might have to try this out. This looks like Temple, but without like having to have like a compile step in front of it. That might be pretty interesting. I now build basically all my software in Go, from tiny one-off tools to web services, CLI, and everything in between. It's good for all those things. I think you can even make Android apps in Go now. I think Google supports that. But why? The common wisdom is to always take the problem at hand, analyze it, and choose the tools. Why would I ignore that and go, nah, I'll just use Go again? Well, I present to you reasons. Perfect. Let's see the reasons. Reason one, Go can basically do anything. Um, yeah, it can do everything but inheritance. If you need like OOP inheritance, probably like a lot of games use, you probably can't use Go as much for that, but you can do lots of composition. So maybe it would be all right to use it for development of games. I don't know. Yeah, Go can do basically anything. Actually, I'll widen that statement to all popular programming languages can basically do anything. Yes, most known for one or the other, and I think definitively they have their strengths and weaknesses. But I think at the end of the day, it basically comes down to opinion and taste. I think there are I think there are tiers. I think there are tiers, and within each tier, you can swap out one or the other without much difference. I think you've got the scripting languages. I think you've got like the JavaScripts, the Pythons, Rubies, Luas, anything like that could sit in the bottom of this pyramid essentially. You've got the next step up, which are your C sharps, your Javas, your Go's. Sort of goes probably a little faster than those other two, but things like that sit there. And then you've got the next tier, which is your C plus plus, which is at the top of the pyramid essentially. Your C, your C plus plus, your Zigs, your Rusts, all those compiled memory managed languages, non-memory managed languages, where you have to manage your own allocations and deal allocations. And I guess the top of the pyramid would probably be just hand rolling assembly. So I think within each of those tiers, I think you can swap out those things for the most part, with one or the other, and you'll get essentially the same result. So, yeah. Um, I like Go. It's simple enough, easy to read, consistent, and a lot of other good things that align well. Um, with how I want. Let's start over. I like Go. It's simple enough, easy to read, consistent, and a lot of other good things that align well with how I want to build software. There are certainly also things I don't like, but I don't care enough to let it bother me. But you probably know all those things already. Go is good for the obvious things: building CLIs, cloud infrastructure, HTTP servers, and network stuff. But people also build games on the Nintendo Switch in Go. I didn't know you could build Switch games. Interesting. And you can. Where do I see the. Where do I see your targets? Cheat sheet and bit. Oh, here, platform. Windows, Mac OS, Linux, FreeBSD. Interesting. Gaming on FreeBSD. Android, iOS, WebAssembly, Nintendo Switch, Xbox. The only one missing is PlayStation. But they target FreeBSD, which is the base of PlayStation. So that's pretty interesting. So they could target PlayStation if they let them, essentially. This is a neat project that I might want to keep for later. I don't remember where that button is to like save something. I'll bookmark it later. But I've even tried a string synthesizer in the terminal built in Go, which I thought was beyond cool. You get to the point. It's often possible to do what you want regardless of the tool you use, until you need to manage memory. Say you're like, you probably can't build a browser in Go, probably pretty easily, or not. I bet somebody's building an OS in Go, but I bet it would be hard to build a kernel in Go. Reason two, less context switching. This is the same argument that JavaScript devs use for using JavaScript on the back end, and I used to buy this argument and I don't anymore because I don't do it. I do C# on the back end or Go on the back end, and I do JavaScript on the front end. And I don't really. The only thing that gets me is the triple equals. I always try to use the triple equals in C# and Go, and it doesn't work. The compiler should just yell at you until you stop writing JavaScript. But other than that, like, I don't really have a problem with context switching per se. I think it's actually good for your brain to use multiple languages. I think becoming a polyglot is a good thing. Like, I think you should learn like one, that tier that I was talking about. You should learn one of each in all that tier. Like, you should learn a scripting language. You should learn like a compiled like intermediate language. You should learn like a memory managed language where you have to manage the memory yourself, either with like Rust lifetimes or with actual allocations in Zig or C. But I think you should learn one of each of those and be able to switch between all of them. I think that would be good for you as a developer, personally. But do you know the feeling when you start writing syntax for one programming language, realize that nope, you're supposed to be writing a different one, and you try to switch your brain to another mode while feeling slightly dumb? I know I used to. Like I said, I don't feel that much. But I don't anymore because I only use one programming language. Ha, jokes on past me. But it goes with much deeper than that. A programming language isn't just a bunch of syntax to build stuff. It's also a compiler, an IDE, a tool chain, a community to engage with, a never ending news machine to keep up with, an ecosystem of libraries, tools, programs, idioms, styles. It can be quite a mouthful on its own, so I found it overwhelming to try to keep up with several. Is this possible? Sure. Will it be more superficial? Also, yep. Which brings me to my third reason. Okay, I don't know. I keep up with a few different ecosystems without much issue. I I keep up with C Sharp, JavaScript, with the web in general, which is a huge one. And Go, I keep up with that too. Like, I don't think it's too crazy. And the reason I don't think it's too crazy is once you understand one ecosystem, you kind of start to understand that they all tend to operate in a very similar way. And you could basically just figure out the differences for the most part. And everything else you can just look up when you need it. It's not that big of a deal, in my opinion. Reason 3, depth of knowledge. When I don't have to keep up with everything around several languages and build everything in just one language, I can go deep, learn stuff I wouldn't have gone into otherwise, investigate nooks and crannies I wouldn't have given a thought, learn esoteric language features, history, read obscure blog posts on details I won't necessarily have bothered with. That doesn't mean I ignore the rest of the world, obviously. You and I both know that there's more to learn in this field. Cutting away programming languages doesn't make software development less complex in a multitude of other aspects, but it does so in one very concrete setting, and one which I can spend a lot of time on. And I know there's like in the market, it sounds like there's a call for more depth of knowledge. Like there's it sounds like there's a call for people to get deeper on this stuff. So yeah, I can kind of see that. So what? I'm gonna limit my career options? No, 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 no. Focusing on. I think you should be able to jump around languages, and I think that it shouldn't necessarily matter what languages you can jump into as long as you have one on each of those levels of the stack. I'm still working my way up that stack. So I'm still trying to that memory managed chunk is my next big thing I need to conquer. So we'll see what happens there. But I think if you get all of those, then I think you can adopt any language. You can jump in any code base, and you may not know the idioms of the language right off the bat, but you can work in it and you can conform to what everybody else there is doing. So, I think that you do need three languages, four if you count like being able to read assembly. I think you should know four essentially, and pick your four and be able to use all of them effectively. The world is large. The number of projects are basically infinite. Even if I carve out a tiny subset of infinite, that's still infinite. Good enough for me and my career ambitions, and I'll be really good at least at one thing. I'm way more productive in Go than when I just start out. Obviously, otherwise I should probably have been switched. Obviously, otherwise I probably should have switched to plumbing. Is that a call out to modern web development? It's just plumbing, web plumbing, essentially. You just use all the libraries and plumb them together. And I hope to stay on the path and maybe even increase the slope exponentially. Okay, less will do as well. Anywho, these are my thoughts. Bring on the nails and I'll beat them in with bloody determined gopher who's screaming, "Is that all you got?" All right. This was pretty good. I'm very interested to see how this works out for him long term. I think personally, my opinion is you should learn, like I said, those four languages, one of each, and be able to switch between them. But yeah, so but definitely go subscribe to his blog. Go subscribe to his RSS feed. I think I'm gonna do that here in a bit. But this is pretty good. I liked it. I liked it. If you liked this video, please leave a comment or subscribe to the channel. If you want to be around for the recording of these, you can show up on Twitch on 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please, please go grab the link out of the description if you want to do that. All right. Everybody have a good one. I know that ending was a little rough. And I feel like we're cruising. I feel we got like 4 of these things done tonight. That was way more than I was expecting. They were all short. They weren't like monstrous articles. So maybe we can do a little bit of programming for a little bit. That might be good. Let's close that. I did want to do. Let's go. Say no. Mini flux. This is what I use to manage all my RSS feeds. Alrighty. So let's add this. I want to add his feed here. Add this to blog posts. Find feed. Mark all as red. All right, cool. But yeah, I love Mini Flux. I think it's great. It's a super simple Go app, and I would highly recommend it for reading RSS feeds. So I have to self-host it, but you can host it on like a DigitalOcean droplet or something, or on an old laptop. It's a really lightweight app. I have mine running in my Kubernetes cluster. So, but yeah. And I want to try that out sometime. I think this would be good to try. Might be interesting. This was that's the Go. Maybe we'll build a game someday. Oh, I don't want to quit everything. Maybe we'll build a game on the stream someday. I think that might be fun. Alrighty. Okay. So what should we work on? Probably refactoring codecs. Let's do that. No. We want to do I have? No. I need to set that up. I have host file entries set up for a lot of my other stuff, actually. No, let's just go over the local network. Okay. Looks like we're already running here. We've got our list processor running, and we've got the We've got the web front end running. If it'll actually go there. Let's go to, we need to go to the website, and we'll go to local codecs, and this is going to dox me as I log in, so I need to blank this real quick. Yeah, it likes to throw my likes to throw out there my I'm having an aneurysm. It likes to throw my email out there, so I'd like to not dox me. We can do the coding cam real quick, so you can see me as I type. Alrighty. Okay, so first things first, where was I? So create Trello dialog. I feel like I remember generating all the things here. Upload types, list dialogues, login, board, Trello card, Trello list, get Trello self, get board by ID, cards or list. These are all just the different things that we need around Trello. I feel like this was done. So then the integration. No, I guess it's an integration partial. It's this. Post integration dialog. Create individual cards, new checklists. Get integrations dialog. This is what. Grab data. So see right now, so what happens right now, so say we've got our list we've uploaded, we can say we can view one, and so there's all these items, and each line will become its own entry in this, and right now the integration down here just renders out to be blank. So we need to get it actually generating. So this execute template list dialog form, and the template file is list dialog form.html. List dialog form. Okay, so this is already here. Okay. So now, so why are we not rendering anything? So it looks like, oh, we're airing out essentially list dialog form, executing list dialog form, candy value, Trello cache, data JSON in the space. Trello. So it can't. So we're caching to the URL essentially, which probably isn't a great strategy, but it's what I got for now. And it seemed to be working all right before. So Trello cache JSON. So that's not a thing. So what's back here? What's in this? What are we feeding into this template? Essentially, data. I don't know. How does, I wonder how Go, I've never seen anyone do this. List dialog data. List dialog data, dialog cache. So it's under data dialog cache. Okay. Dialog cache. Okay. All right. So now if we go back to here and we go back here, nil pointer evaluating list dialog to dialog cache. Nil pointer. Wait. Trello cache data. It's definitely not nil when we're generating it. Dialog cache. URL escaped data string. Huh. I wonder why would that be nil? Unless we're in some sort of kind of scope here. For list, label for dialog form. No? This is in data dialog cache. Dialog data. List not found. Yeah, data is passed to the template directly. So why is that null? Why? I wonder, is data just null? Let me go double check the execute template method here. Data any is the last one, so it's writer name data. Nil pointer evaluating data list dialog data. Executing list dialog form. I really don't understand how that can be a nil pointer. Something probably super obvious. Dialog elements. Dialog cache. Dialog cache. Wait, so no, dialog cache must be a filled out string, but dialog data is technically nullable. We should. Let's just add if sure. Okay, so it recompiled just fine. Nil pointer. So it's not null. It's supposed to be a pointer. What if we dereference it? What if we say data is not a pointer? Dereference it there. What happens when we do that? Dereferencing doesn't make something not null. I think we erred. 400 from partials. Where's our network? $400 bad request. List text. Response. List ID not found. List ID wouldn't be found yet because we only... Wait. The list ID should be found. It was not part of the list ID. Sorry. I go look at. I heard something. The list ID should not be found. It's true, list ID isn't part of that call, which would be a problem. And that's a problem in the template, but we need to integration ID list text. Integration ID dialog cache. Submit enable dialog elements. I think list ID needs to be on there. That way, we can come in here. Where else? Custom select. No, that's running on select. That should be fine. Partials. No, it's everywhere here. So actually, we should just go up here. Yank that. Yeah, it's everywhere. How did this work? List ID. List ID. Quite a few of those things. Okay, let's see what that does. $400. What is upset? List ID not found, but I provided a list ID. I should have. Headers. Oh, list ID is blank? Why is list ID blank? List ID get query values ID. Okay, so I named it wrong. That's the problem. Okay. $400. List ID not found. Why? Why is that? ID is just blank. Trello cache is blank. That's understandable. And list text equals that. That's all okay. I get that. Hmm. 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 Why is list ID blank? ID list ID not found. Query values. Maybe because in the initial render, because there's a separate render on the actual page. This dialog form, no. Handler, lists, login, upload form, login, integrations partial. Upload image form. No, that's not it. What's the URL? It's been too long since I've been this. Lists. Lists? Terrible name. Why did I do that? Redirect login. Get list. List dialog form data. Page data. List text data, list dialog form data. Oh. Yeah, okay. Okay. That would be why. What else are we missing from this? List text. We got that. And data. We don't have data, which will be a problem. Okay. Where is it? Create Trello dialog lists. Because this is, yeah. Okay. Two. Okay. Query values. Oh, it's going to be asking all sorts of things for query values. All sorts of things that aren't present. I may have to think through this one. Do I fake the query values? Do I send in the query values that we already have? Oh, hey, you caught the stream. How's it going? Let me get my chat here where I can see it better. A no, right? So I almost want to fake the query values, but I don't know if I should. Or maybe I should just say r.url.query. URL.values. URL.values, yeah. Dialog data declared not used. Yeah. Data. I'm doing pretty well. I had the day off, so I got to work on some stuff. Work on some personal stuff. So it's Labor Day here. So dialogue. What did I call that thing? Dialog list data. Yeah, that's right. I got a dereference. But yeah, no, I got to wash some cars and clean up some stuff around the house. So it was pretty good. Was not a bad day at all. see what this does. See if this works. Oh boy. Oh, it loaded. Did it error? No, it didn't. Okay, cool. That's good. I was expecting it to fully error out. So let's go back home real quick. Let's go hit the view button again. Took a second to load. We say Trello. Oh, it's 200, but it's an error rendering template. How far did it get? Got down to here. Error rendering template right after the BR. Can't evaluate type field previous Trello login and type data list.dialog.form data. One thing I do need to do in this app is, so right now I stream the buffers essentially from the client from the client or the server to the client, and I don't evaluate the whole buffer and then catch the error on the back end. All I do is just spit out the error right in the middle of the rendering process. So I really should render to a buffer and then take that buffer. If it's an error that comes out of it, I should send just the error, not everything rendered up to the buffer point, because that's creating some awkward things like this. Like you can see, like there's a bunch of unclosed tags here in this, and it's just not, it ain't right. Like, and then it just says error rendering template. I should have just gotten error rendering template and maybe an exception, but I need to evaluate the whole thing first. I did this in another app that I have, so I'll need to evaluate the whole thing first, and then show the error or the properly rendered string. It's a little less performant that way, but the error handling's much better. So let's take this. I don't think I need this anymore. What was the error though over here? What did it say? Can't evaluate previous Trello login. Previous Trello login. So, not there. Previous Trello login. I don't remember what this does. That's the only thing there. It only happens here. We don't have that anywhere else in the code base, so that's pre-refactor. So if integration ID, then do that. If previous Trello login. Oh, it's saying if you've previously logged in with Trello. That was an oversight, I think. No, not that. 2. No, 1. In here somewhere. We need to understand if they have a login token. It's the only time we reference login. Where did I get that from? Is it on the user record? Token expires at email and ID. Actually, db.go. So we create Trello integration, get Trello integrations by user ID. Where are we using this? db Trello.go. This is in create Trello dialog. Trello integrations. Where is this used? Was that not used anywhere? Oh, no, it's used quite a few places. Trello integrations, get Trello self. Gets the token. Gets the lists. List dialog data. I almost think there needs to be like more people don't use Linux because it doesn't come pre-installed. I got that when I read that article. I read an article earlier labeled "Why Don't More People Use Linux?" And I think I'm pretty much on your team. I think that most people have like most people use Windows and Mac because that's what comes on their computer by default. So yeah, I fully agree. I do think the Steam Deck is a good example of that. I don't have one yet. I want one, but yeah, I fully agree. I think it really comes down to the fact that it's what comes pre-installed. I do think that it's got some complexity that the average user probably doesn't need, but but yeah, no, I want one. I really should go look at like the used market and see if I can find a good price on a used one maybe and grab one here sometime. It can, and that's its so Linux can be anything, and that's its danger, I think. Um it can be simpler than Windows. And Chrome OS is a good example of that, honestly. But most distros are not that locked down. So Bazite. I have not tried Bazite. Um, next generation of Linux gaming. Oh, okay. So this is like a gaming specific OS essentially. GNOME based Steam. Interesting. Custom image built on Fedora. Okay. Most of my distros that I use are Debian based. It can be used for anything but has gaming tweaks. If you don't want gaming, try Bluefin. Interesting. 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 So it's kind of like a Fedora remix. Wait. Brings Android apps. Oh, it's got an Android subsystem on it? Waydroid. I used Anbox back in the day when I wanted that. That was interesting. Oh, it's all one page. Gotcha. So yeah, Anbox was pretty cool. I used it a little bit, but then I don't know. At a certain point, I didn't need to run Linux on or Android on Linux anymore. But it was a really cool project, and I remember it working pretty well. But this looks interesting. Looks like an interesting distro. I do not generally use RPM based distros. These are all Debian based that I usually use, either Debian or Ubuntu. This is just Ubuntu. So with i3 or Sway rather than i3, but I find it to be the most compatible with everything. Usually everybody's got a Debian port of their app. Waydroid is much better though. If I need to run Android apps on Linux, I'll definitely give it a look. How does it work? Uses Linux namespaces on any platform. So it runs in a LXC container. That's interesting. That's probably way more performant to go that way. Based on Lineage OS, cool. Lineage is good. Yeah, I always wondered why nobody used this as a... Is Lineage OS dead? They looks... Well, their website's still up. Where's the list of devices? So let's just look at Google. Pixel 2, 6, 7, 8. They've got up to the Pixel 8 Pro on here. It's right there on the main page. Sunsetting Lineage OS 18.1 were triggered today and published on the upcoming days for all currently supported devices. Android security bulletins every month supported Android versions. Google published the final ASB for Android R, which Lineage OS 18.1 is based on. Can't you just backport security patches from newer versions? Well, we could, and some independent developers like we won't be doing so for a variety of reasons. Extremely difficult to properly track changes across versions as they pertain to security patch vulnerability. There's even a chance of backporting the code incorrectly to introduce new security vulnerabilities. There's no reliable way to patch Lineage OS 18.1 that will result in devices being more secure than they were before. Upgrade is available to newer Lineage OS versions. See, that's what I was wondering. So, actually, nah. So if we go to here, and we go to here, let's go to the 8 Pro. And builds. Yeah, so Lineage OS 21.0 is available. So I think they're sunsetting Lineage OS 18 because they can't backport security updates to it. But I think it's still alive. I think that a lot of the project itself is still alive. That would be a big bummer because that's Lineage is the successor to CyanogenMod. So This is like the de facto custom ROM. I remember running it. This is what I ran back in the day. Like when I rooted a phone, like if I rooted my Pixel, this is what I would run on it. Like this was the most stable custom ROM that let you do fun things. Google's pretty much neutered custom ROMs, so yeah. But this would be what I would that's what I would pick. Yeah. Anyway, after going down that rabbit hole real quick, what were we doing here? We wanted to more items. Trello integrations token. So we were looking at the different places where Trello integrations were used in creating the Trello dialog. You can install any Debian package with it on Bazzite Bluefin. Oh, interesting. So it's got like a compatibility layer then for for uh for packages, so you can install multiple package managers stuff. What about Arch? Does it support Pac-Man? Oh, Bazzite OS is based on got it, got it. No, it's not. Arch broke container broken. Oh, so they distro box. Use any Linux distribution inside your terminal. Backwards and forwards compatibility. Software and freedom to use whatever distribution. Oh. Interesting. I have never seen this before. This is like where you can run like multiple different distros in WSL. Like you can run Arch or you can run Ubuntu or SUSE or whatever. Interesting. I wonder how that works in practice. Must provide a mutable desktop environment on an immutable S. Oh, or OS, like Chrome OS, Endless OS. Provide local privilege environment for pseudoless setups. Mix and match stable base system with bleeding edge environment. Interesting. You can export any app to your main system. Be careful if you use Docker or use Podman with the root flag, the containers will run in root. So modify system stuff outside the container. Yeah, that makes sense. Distro create and test. Interesting. I might need to use this. I might just install this on my machine just to play with stuff, because sometimes there's stuff on like Arch that I want to use and I can't use it, or like they only provide an RPM package or something. So this might be super handy. It comes pre-configured for DistroBox. That might be nice. I don't know. I bet I can swap out my window manager on Bazzite probably, but yeah, I've already got, like I said, I've already got Ubuntu set up here, so I might as well go with I could try. We might be make for an interesting stream to try to swap out a window manager on an OS that doesn't support that. That might be fun, but I think installing DistroBox onto this machine might be easier. So I might do that. I think this is actually kind of a really cool thing. Another Bazite OS made for tiling window managers. Way balloon? Fedora Atomic Images for Wayland. Wayfire WF Shell. Hyperland. River, Wayfire, Sway. Okay, yeah. Good use. Could give this a shot. See what it does. Cool. Cool. Yeah. I'm gonna play around with them at some point. So that's neat. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. I did not know DistroBox was even a thing. I think I might even just try playing with DistroBox. I don't know if it comes with DistroBox though. Yeah, that's fair. It says DistroBox runs on Debian, so I probably will just install it on this install. It works great. So alrighty. So I think I have work tomorrow, and it's 10 o'clock. I think I might want to call the stream here. But yeah, yeah. Thank you everybody for sticking around for the end of this. I really appreciate it. So, but yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, you guys have a good night and a good day. So we'll be doing this again next week on Monday. So yeah, have a good one all. Talk to you guys later. Bye.